There's no waffling. We stand on our principles. And what they're saying is, you know what, King, our bodies may be here in Babylon, but our hearts are in Jerusalem. And we are going to obey the one true God. But not only were they denying the king of Babylon, they were denying every known religion. Every religion of the world they denied. And they were denying the king's authority. You know, it's important that you understand something about the religions of the day. They had some really odd ideas about religion and their gods with a little g. For example, the gods had limited jurisdiction. If you were on a very long trip and you traveled from one country to another, your God couldn't make the whole trip with you. When you reached the boundary of one country, your God, the little g, would have to say, well, this is where I have to stay. This is it for my jurisdiction. And then when you stepped into the next country, you'd pick up another God who would see you the rest of the way. Because each of the gods have their own area, kind of like the Bloods and the Crips, you know, the gangs. They had their own territory. These gods had their own territories. But they had a god for everything. The rain god brought rain. The fertility god brought babies. I guess it wasn't the stork after all. The green thumb god brought good crops. The war god brought victory in battle. And they had a god for every need. I don't know if they had a god for bunions or not, but every god of every need had its own god. They had a god for every single anticipated difficulty that they might have. Another thing about the religions of the day is that if your God did not perform right, for example, you're in a drought like we've been in a drought. You probably will make up for it just today, but you're in a drought and you pray for rain and rain does not come. Well, the batteries must be dead in your God, so you need to change it to another God and replace him. Go to the Walmart of gods and pick up the next newer, greater model. And that's the way it works. If your neighbor had better crops, then they had a better God. If the kingdom next door got more rain, then their God was better. The thing is, you wouldn't ever think about serving a God that didn't deliver. And that's why the story is so powerful a lesson to King Nebuchadnezzar. If your God couldn't deliver you out of trouble, what's the point? What good is a God who doesn't fix things for you? So here we have Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, but if you do not worship it, you will be thrown down into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue from my hand? Last time, the three Hebrew worthies were the ones that challenged Nebuchadnezzar, but this time, Nebuchadnezzar is the one to lay down the gauntlet. He pulls off the glove and he slaps, proverbially, he slaps the face of the one true God. He challenges their God, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Excuse me. Your God will not rescue you, he's saying. My God is better than yours. My daddy can beat up your daddy. My daddy is better than yours, is what Nebuchadnezzar is saying. And then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego reply. Look at verse 17. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But then they present something that turns the whole idea of religion upside down. Nebuchadnezzar's understanding of what gods mean to people is totally inverted, because then they say in verse 18, but even if he does not what? If he does not save us from the fiery furnace, even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. We're not going to do it, even if it means death. Our God, king, our God is better than your God. But he doesn't have to prove himself like a bully on the playground. Our God is able to rescue us, but he may not choose to do so. Our God can rescue us. But He is not a rabbit's foot that we just rub when we want something to happen our way. Well, this is Nebuchadnezzar taking this in, and this does not make any sense. Because this is Nebuchadnezzar's view of the God. If He doesn't provide rain, if He doesn't prevent the accident, if He doesn't provide children, if He doesn't get you a job, if He doesn't keep your crops from failing, if He doesn't cure your cancer, if He doesn't give you victory in battle, if He doesn't fix your life, if He doesn't pay the rent, then He's no good. But to Shadrach and to Meshach and to Abednego, their God was more than a safety net. Their God is more than a genie in a bottle. When you want something, you rub Him the right way and all of a sudden He's there. He's more than a great Santa Claus in the sky. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's God was the God, the Creator. He was the God to be worshipped because He is God, not because He provides protection. He is to be worshipped because He is the God, to be God on His terms, not on their terms. He is to be loved for who He is, not what He can do for you when you need Him most. It's just because of who He is. And that's a whole new concept for Nebuchadnezzar. God's not there to make things comfortable, folks. God is not there. He's not about what you want. It's not what He's about. He is not a designer God that you can mold and shape into what you want Him to be, to provide what you want when you want it, to get you out of the struggles of life when you don't seem to think that you can make it. That's not who He is. He is not a God made in the image of man. He is not man-made. But let me ask you a very personal question. Not to answer it out loud, but I want you to think about it, and I want each of you to answer it in your own heart. And I want you to ask the Holy Spirit to reveal the truth to you. Have Him speak directly to your heart when I ask you this question, because He's asking it. What kind of God do you have? What kind of religion do you have? Is your God made in your image? There to fulfill your needs as you see them, on your timetable when you see them? Responding like a genie in the bottle to your desires? Is He there to protect you? Is He there to help out on the tests of life? Is He just there to call unto in trouble and forget in the good times? Is He a designer God that's outfitted to satisfy your needs without crossing your desires, your wants? A God that is worshipped because of what it can do for you. You know, if that's the kind of God you have a heathen God. You have the same kind of God that was erected on the plain of Dura. Because you have a designer God. You have a man-made God. No less heathen than that statue. Your God stands by idly while you cheat in your business, giving you no sense of guilt. If your God is the kind of God that pats you on the back indulgently as you contemplate an extramarital affair, if your God is the kind of God that looks the other way as you put your body at risk with alcohol, with drugs, with tobacco, poor diet, just because you call Him Jesus makes Him no different than the golden statue on the plain of Dura. No different. A lucky rabbit's foot. A charm, a St. Christopher's medallion, a patron saint of safe travel hanging from your rearview mirror. That's all He is. Something to be worn in case of an emergency, like a medic alert bracelet. In case of problems, call this number. Only to be called on when there is a pain or a trial. Only to be used to approve what worldly desires we demand.